The rain fell hard that evening, turning the streets of Chicago into rivers of shimmering light. Cars splashed through puddles as their headlights cut through the darkness. It was one of those nights when most people stayed indoors, wrapped in blankets and sipping hot tea. But Megan Carter wasn't like most people. She had always been someone who put others before herself, even if it meant staying late at work or walking home alone under stormy skies. Megan worked at St. Mary's Hospital, a place she loved despite its flaws. As a nurse, she spent her days caring for patients, comforting families, and doing whatever it took to make things better. Her coworkers often joked that she had superhuman stamina, because no matter how long her shift lasted, she never seemed to tire. Tonight, however, fatigue was starting to creep in. Her feet ached from hours of running between rooms, and her scrubs were damp from rushing in and out of the rain earlier. As she finally clocked out after a grueling 12-hour shift, Megan zipped up her thin jacket and stepped outside. The cold wind hit her face immediately, making her wish she'd brought something warmer. Still, she didn't mind the weather too much. It gave her time to think. Walking home helped clear her mind after stressful days at the hospital. But tonight, her walk would take an unexpected turn. Just a few steps away from the hospital entrance, Megan noticed something unusual. At first glance, it looked like a pile of discarded clothes lying on the wet sidewalk. But as she got closer, she realized it was a person. Panic surged through her body. She dropped her bag and rushed over, kneeling beside the figure sprawled awkwardly on the ground. It was a man, maybe in his mid-30s, dressed in an expensive-looking suit that was now soaked and stained with mud. His dark hair clung to his forehead, partially covering his face. Blood trickled down the side of his head, mixing with rainwater. He groaned softly, barely conscious. Megan's training kicked in instantly. She checked his pulse. It was weak but steady, and quickly assessed his condition. There was no obvious sign of broken bones, but the head injury worried her. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked loudly, trying to get his attention. The man stirred slightly, mumbling something unintelligible. His breathing was shallow, and his skin felt clammy. Time was critical. If he didn't receive medical attention soon, things could go downhill fast. Megan hesitated for a moment. Technically, she was off duty. According to hospital policy, she should call emergency services immediately and let professionals handle the situation. But every second counted, and waiting for an ambulance might delay treatment. Besides, she knew exactly what to do. Years of experience had taught her how to stabilize patients until help arrived. Without wasting another moment, Megan sprang into action. She carefully tilted the man's head back to keep his airway open while applying pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding. Using her scarf, she fashioned a makeshift bandage to cover the cut. All the while, she kept talking to him, urging him to stay awake. "You're going to be okay," she said firmly, though her voice trembled slightly. "Help is coming." Rain poured down relentlessly, soaking her clothes and chilling her to the bone. But Megan barely noticed. Her focus was entirely on the man in front of her. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 10 minutes, she heard the distant wail of sirens approaching. Relief washed over her as paramedics arrived on the scene. They quickly took over, loading the man onto a stretcher and rushing him inside the hospital. Megan followed them, answering questions about his condition and explaining what she had done. Once they were satisfied, she stepped back, letting the medical team do their job. Exhausted and drenched, she picked up her bag and prepared to leave. That's when trouble began. The next morning, Megan received a summons to meet with the hospital administration. Confused, she went to the office, only to find herself facing a stern-looking panel of executives. They accused her of violating protocol by treating the man outside official duties. According to them, her actions reflected poorly on the hospital and set a dangerous precedent. No matter how much Megan tried to explain that she had acted out of necessity, they refused to listen. By the end of the meeting, Megan found herself unemployed. Tears welled up in her eyes as she packed her belongings into a small box. How could this happen? She had saved a life, yet she was being punished for it. Colleagues whispered sympathetically as she walked past, but no one dared challenge the decision. Feeling defeated, Megan left the hospital for the last time. Over the next few days, Megan struggled to process what had happened. Losing her job wasn't just a professional blow. It shook her faith in the system she had devoted her life to. She spent hours replaying the incident in her mind, wondering if she should have done something differently. Yet deep down, she knew she couldn't regret saving that man. Even if it cost her everything, she believed she had done the right thing. Little did she know, fate had other plans for her. On the third day after the incident, a courier knocked on Megan's apartment door. She signed for the envelope, curious about its contents. Inside, she found a handwritten letter on thick, creamy paper. The elegant handwriting caught her eye immediately. As she read the words, her heart skipped a beat. "Dear Megan Carter," the letter began, "I owe my life to you. Thank you for your quick thinking and compassion during a moment of crisis. Please accept my deepest gratitude and know that I will forever remember your kindness." The letter went on to invite her to meet its author, Daniel Harper, whose name appeared at the bottom along with a phone number. Shocked and intrigued, Megan stared at the page for several minutes. Who was this man? And why did his tone sound so familiar? After some deliberation, she decided to call the number. A polite assistant answered and arranged for her to visit Daniel at his penthouse apartment later that week. Though nervous, Megan couldn't ignore the opportunity to learn more about the stranger whose life she had saved, and perhaps find some closure for herself. As she hung up the phone, Megan felt a flicker of hope reignite within her. Maybe this encounter would lead to something positive. Or maybe it would simply remind her that good deeds, no matter how unrecognized, still mattered in the grand scheme of things. Whatever lay ahead, Megan knew one thing for certain. She wouldn't stop fighting for what was right, even if the world sometimes failed to see it. The day Megan was scheduled to meet Daniel Harper, she spent hours preparing, not just her appearance but also mentally rehearsing what she might say. She had no idea what to expect. Was this meeting merely a polite gesture? Or did Daniel have something more substantial in mind? Despite her curiosity, Megan couldn't shake off the nervous energy coursing through her body. When she arrived at the address listed in the letter, she was awestruck. The building was unlike anything she'd ever seen before. A towering skyscraper with glass walls that reflected the golden hues of the setting sun. A doorman greeted her warmly and directed her to the top floor. As the elevator ascended, Megan's heart raced. She glanced at her reflection in the mirrored walls, smoothing down her simple blouse and jeans. Compared to the opulence around her, she felt painfully ordinary. The doors opened into a sprawling penthouse apartment. The first thing Megan noticed was the view. Through massive windows, the entire city stretched out below, its lights beginning to twinkle against the deepening twilight. The second thing she noticed was Daniel Harper himself. He sat on a plush couch, dressed casually in a sweater and slacks, but there was no mistaking the air of authority he carried. His piercing blue eyes locked onto hers immediately, and he stood up to greet her. "Megan," he said, extending his hand with a warm smile. "Thank you for coming." His voice was calm and steady, putting her somewhat at ease. Still, she hesitated before shaking his hand. Up close, she could see faint traces of bruising along his temple, remnants of the accident. For a moment, she wondered how someone so powerful could end up unconscious on a sidewalk, but now wasn't the time to ask. "I'm glad you're feeling better," Megan replied, her tone polite but reserved. "How are you doing?" "I've been worse," Daniel admitted with a small chuckle. "But I wouldn't be here without your help. Please, sit down." He gestured toward a chair across from him and Megan obliged. As she settled into the seat, she took in her surroundings. Everything about the apartment screamed wealth, from the designer furniture to the artwork hanging on the walls. Yet, despite the luxury, the space felt surprisingly inviting. It was clear that Daniel valued comfort as much as style. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Megan fidgeted slightly, unsure where to begin. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "I can't thank you enough for what you did," he said earnestly. "Most people would have walked past me that night. But you didn't hesitate. You acted with courage and skill." Megan shrugged modestly. "I was just doing what anyone else in my position would have done." "No," Daniel countered firmly. "Not everyone would have taken that risk. You saved my life, Megan, and because of that, I want to repay you." Her eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Repay me? What do you mean?" Daniel leaned forward, resting, his elbows on his knees. "I know what happened after you helped me. You lost your job because of it. That's unacceptable. So I'd like to offer you a new opportunity, one that recognizes your talents and rewards your bravery." Megan blinked, caught off guard. "What kind of opportunity?" "A role within my company," Daniel explained. "Harper Technologies specializes in advanced robotics and artificial intelligence. We're always looking for individuals who share our vision of improving lives through innovation. Your medical expertise would be invaluable to us. Specifically, I'd like you to serve as a private healthcare consultant, ensuring our employee wellness programs are top-notch, and advising on cutting-edge medical technologies we're developing." As he spoke, Megan's mind raced. The offer sounded incredible, too good to be true even, but doubts lingered. Could she really trust this man? After all, she barely knew him, and working for a billionaire CEO seemed worlds away from her previous life as a hospital nurse. "I appreciate the offer," Megan said slowly, choosing her words carefully. "But I need to think about it. This is a big change." "Of course," Daniel replied, nodding understandingly. "Take all the time you need. I don't expect an answer right away. Just know that this isn't charity, it's recognition of your abilities. You deserve this chance, Megan." His sincerity struck a chord with her. There was no trace of arrogance or condescension in his demeanor. Instead, he seemed genuinely grateful, almost humbled by the situation. For the first time since losing her job, Megan allowed herself to imagine a different future, one where her skills were valued and her efforts weren't overlooked. Over the next hour, they talked more about Harper Technologies and its mission. Daniel explained how the company aimed to revolutionize industries ranging from healthcare to manufacturing. He shared stories of breakthrough projects and ambitious goals, painting a picture of a workplace driven by passion and purpose. Megan listened intently, fascinated by the scope of his vision. But amidst the excitement, one question kept nagging at her. Why was Daniel going out of his way to help her? Sure, she had saved his life, but wealthy executives rarely involved themselves so personally in the lives of strangers. Something about the situation felt too perfect, almost surreal. Before leaving, Megan thanked Daniel for his hospitality and promised to consider his offer seriously. As she rode the elevator back down to the lobby, her thoughts swirled with possibilities. Could this be the fresh start she needed? Or was she walking into something far more complicated than she realized? Back home, Megan replayed the conversation in her mind. She thought about Daniel's gratitude, his determination to make things right. There was something admirable about him, something genuine. But she also reminded herself to stay cautious. Life had taught her that appearances could be deceiving, especially when money and power were involved. Still, as she drifted off to sleep that night, Megan couldn't deny the flicker of hope burning inside her. Maybe, just maybe, this unexpected turn of events would lead her somewhere meaningful. All she had to do was take the first step. The decision didn't come easily to Megan. For days after meeting Daniel Harper, she wrestled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, the opportunity he offered was extraordinary, a chance to step into a world where her skills would be recognized and rewarded. On the other hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that accepting his proposal might mean losing part of herself. After all, she had spent years building her identity as a nurse who served others selflessly. Would working for a billionaire CEO change that? Ultimately, curiosity won out. Megan accepted Daniel's offer, agreeing to join Harper Technologies as a private healthcare consultant. Her first day at the company headquarters was overwhelming. The building itself was a marvel of modern architecture, with gleaming glass walls and state-of-the-art facilities. Employees moved briskly between floors, their conversations filled with technical jargon Megan barely understood. It was clear this wasn't just any workplace, it was a hub of innovation. Daniel greeted her warmly when she arrived, introducing her to key members of the team. "Everyone here is passionate about making a difference," he explained as they walked through the bustling offices. "We're not just creating products, we're solving real-world problems." Megan nodded, trying to absorb everything around her. She noticed how employees treated Daniel with respect, but also seemed comfortable around him. Unlike the distant executives she'd imagined, he was approachable and hands-on, often stopping to discuss projects or offer guidance. It was refreshing and slightly intimidating. Her role quickly became clear: ensure employee wellness programs were effective and advise on medical technologies under development. At first, Megan worried she wouldn't fit in. Most of her colleagues held advanced degrees in engineering or computer science, fields far removed from nursing. But Daniel reassured her. "Your perspective is invaluable," he told her during one of their early meetings. "You understand people in ways we don't. That's exactly what we need." True to his word, Daniel included Megan in discussions about cutting-edge projects. One initiative particularly caught her attention: a wearable device designed to monitor vital signs in real time. The prototype looked like a slim wristband, but its capabilities were astonishing. It could detect irregular heartbeats, track stress levels, and even predict potential health crises before they occurred. Megan marveled at the potential impact such a device could have, not just for employees, but for patients worldwide. However, adjusting to her new life wasn't without challenges. For starters, the sheer scale of Harper Technologies intimidated her. With operations spanning multiple continents, the company employed thousands of people, each contributing to its ambitious goals. Megan often felt like a small cog in an enormous machine, unsure if her contributions mattered. Then there was the lifestyle shift. Traveling between corporate offices and research facilities exposed her to levels of wealth and privilege she'd never experienced. Lavish accommodations, private jets, and gourmet meals became routine, leaving her feeling both grateful and uneasy. Despite these adjustments, Megan found joy in her work. Collaborating with brilliant minds inspired her, pushing her to think creatively and expand her horizons. More importantly, she discovered that her experience as a nurse gave her unique insights. While engineers focused on functionality, Megan emphasized usability and empathy, ensuring the technologies they developed truly improved lives. As weeks turned into months, Megan grew closer to Daniel. Their professional relationship evolved into something deeper, a friendship built on mutual respect and shared values. They often discussed ideas over coffee or late-night strategy sessions, bouncing thoughts off each other until solutions emerged. Daniel admired Megan's dedication and moral compass, qualities he believed were essential for leadership. Meanwhile, Megan appreciated his humility and willingness to listen, traits uncommon among powerful figures. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Daniel invited Megan to his penthouse for dinner. "I want to celebrate your progress," he said with a smile. "You've made a huge impact already." At first, Megan hesitated, unsure if accepting the invitation was appropriate, but Daniel insisted, assuring her it was purely professional. When she arrived, she was greeted by stunning views of the city lights and a table set with elegant simplicity. Over a meal prepared by a private chef, they talked about everything from childhood memories to future aspirations. "You remind me of why I started this company," Daniel admitted halfway through dessert. "It's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when you're surrounded by numbers and deadlines, but you keep reminding me what really matters: helping people." Megan smiled, touched by his words. "And you remind me that doing good doesn't have to mean sacrificing ambition. Maybe I can make a difference here too." Their conversation lingered long after the plates were cleared. For the first time since joining Harper Technologies, Megan felt completely at ease. She realized how much she valued Daniel's friendship, and perhaps something more, though neither of them voiced it, A quiet understanding passed between them. They were stronger together than apart. But even as Megan embraced her new role, shadows loomed on the horizon. Rumors circulated about secretive projects hidden within the company's vast network. Whispers of unethical experiments reached her ears, though no one dared speak openly. Determined to uncover the truth, Megan began paying closer attention to details, noticing discrepancies in reports and strange behavior among certain teams. One night, while waiting for Daniel in his office, Megan stumbled upon files left open on his desk. Curiosity got the better of her and she glanced at the documents. What she saw chilled her to the core. Experimental initiatives involving human augmentation raised alarming ethical questions. Some projects pushed boundaries far beyond what she considered acceptable, blurring the line between innovation and exploitation. Horrified, Megan confronted Daniel the next day. "What's going on?" she demanded, showing him the files. "These projects, they're dangerous. How can you justify this?" Daniel sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "I know it looks bad," he admitted, "but not everything is as it seems. Certain factions within the company are pushing for results at any cost. I've been trying to rein them in, but..." "But what?" Megan pressed, her voice trembling. "Are you telling me you knew about this?" "No," Daniel replied firmly. "Not all of it. But I should have seen the signs earlier. This isn't the vision I had for Harper Technologies." His honesty disarmed her anger, replacing it with resolve. Together, they vowed to address the issue head-on, determined to steer the company back toward ethical practices. It wouldn't be easy, but Megan knew she couldn't turn away now. If anything, her experiences had taught her the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it meant challenging those in power. As she stood beside Daniel planning their next steps, Megan realized she had found her true purpose. Not just as a nurse, but as someone willing to fight for integrity and humanity in a world increasingly driven by profit. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it, with courage, conviction, and the knowledge that she wasn't alone. Megan couldn't sleep that night. Her mind kept replaying the conversation with Daniel about the unethical projects hidden within Harper Technologies. Though he had promised to address the issue, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move could destroy everything, the company, their careers, even their reputations. Yet doing nothing felt worse. If these experiments continued unchecked, innocent lives could be put at risk. The next morning, Megan arrived at the office early, determined to dig deeper. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Information like this was guarded closely, accessible only to top executives and select teams. But Megan had learned over the months how to navigate the company's systems subtly. Her role as a healthcare consultant gave her access to certain databases, and she used that access carefully, searching for clues without raising suspicion. Hours passed as she sifted through files, piecing together fragments of the puzzle. What she uncovered chilled her to the bone. Some projects involved testing experimental implants on human subjects, devices designed to enhance physical abilities, but with unknown long-term effects. Others focused on AI-driven brain interfaces, which blurred the line between human thought and machine control. These weren't just ambitious ideas. They were invasive, risky, and potentially exploitative. Megan's stomach churned as she read testimonies from participants who claimed they hadn't fully understood the risks before agreeing to take part. Many described side effects ranging from chronic pain to memory loss. Worst of all, there was evidence suggesting some individuals hadn't consented at all. They were either coerced or misled into participating. The more Megan learned, the angrier she became. How could anyone justify such practices in the name of progress? By late afternoon, Megan decided she needed to confront Daniel again. She sent him a message asking for an urgent meeting. When he joined her in a private conference room, his expression turned serious the moment he saw her face. "What's wrong?" he asked, closing the door behind him. "I found more," Megan said, sliding a folder across the table. "It's worse than we thought." Daniel opened the folder, scanning the documents silently. His jaw tightened as he read, his usual calm demeanor replaced by mounting frustration. This, this can't be happening, he muttered under his breath. It is happening, Megan replied firmly, and we need to stop it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of the situation hung heavy in the air. Finally, Daniel sighed and leaned back in his chair. I'll admit I suspected some corners were being cut, but I never imagined it would go this far. Do you know who's behind it? Megan asked. Daniel hesitated. There's a faction within the board pushing for faster results. They argue that innovation requires taking risks. I've tried to slow them down, but they're relentless. Then we need to expose them, Megan said without hesitation. If we don't, they'll keep going until someone gets seriously hurt, or worse. Daniel shook his head. It's not that simple. Going public could ruin the entire company. Thousands of employees depend on Harper Technologies for their livelihoods, not to mention the good work we're doing. It would all be overshadowed by scandal. But what's the alternative? Megan countered. Let them continue exploiting people. That's not the vision you talked about when I first started here. She watched as Daniel wrestled with the dilemma. He cared deeply about the company and its mission, but he also valued ethics above all else. After a long pause, he finally nodded. You're right. We can't ignore this. But we have to be smart about it. If we act too quickly, we risk losing everything, including our ability to fix the problem. Together, they began devising a plan. First, they agreed to gather irrefutable evidence of the unethical practices. This meant infiltrating restricted areas of the company's network and documenting every detail. It was risky, but Megan was willing to do whatever it took. Second, they decided to reach out to trusted allies within the organization, people who shared their commitment to ethical standards. Building a coalition would give them strength and credibility. Over the next few weeks, Megan threw herself into the investigation. She worked tirelessly, often staying late into the night to avoid detection. Each new discovery fueled her determination, even as the pressure mounted. At times, she wondered if she was biting off more than she could chew. The stakes were incredibly high, and failure wasn't an option. Meanwhile, her relationship with Daniel deepened. Their shared goal brought them closer, forging a bond stronger than either had anticipated. They spent countless hours strategizing, debating, and supporting each other through moments of doubt. Daniel admired Megan's courage and unwavering moral compass, while Megan appreciated his leadership and willingness to listen. Though neither voiced it aloud, there was no denying the growing connection between them. One evening, after another long day of research, Megan and Daniel met in his office to review their findings. Spread across the desk were printouts, screenshots, and handwritten notes detailing the extent of the unethical practices. As they pored over the materials, Megan felt a mix of anger and hope. Anger at the greed and recklessness driving these projects, and hope that they could still make things right. We're close, Daniel said, breaking the silence. With this evidence, we can shut down the worst offenders and implement stricter guidelines moving forward. But will it be enough? Megan asked quietly. Even if we stop them now, how do we prevent this from happening again? That's where you come in, Daniel replied, looking at her with admiration. Your voice matters. You represent integrity and compassion, the values we need to prioritize. Together we can redefine what success means for this company. His words resonated deeply with Megan. For so long she had doubted her place in this world of wealth and power. But now she realized she had a unique opportunity to use her position to advocate for change. No matter how daunting the challenge, she refused to back down. As they finalized their plans, Megan allowed herself a rare moment of optimism. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with obstacles and resistance, but she believed in the power of truth and justice. With Daniel by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. Little did she know the hardest battles were yet to come. The day had finally arrived. After weeks of preparation, Megan and Daniel were ready to present their findings to the board of directors at Harper Technologies. It was a risky move, but they believed it was the only way to stop the unethical experiments once and for all. As Megan entered the boardroom, she felt her heart pounding in her chest. The room was filled with powerful people, men and women who controlled billions of dollars and shaped the future of innovation. They sat stiffly in their leather chairs, eyeing her with curiosity and skepticism. Megan took a deep breath and began speaking. Her voice trembled slightly at first, but as she laid out the evidence, her confidence grew. She showed graphs, documents, and testimonies proving that certain projects within the company violated ethical standards. She highlighted cases where participants had been misled or coerced into dangerous experiments. Every word she spoke carried weight, painting a clear picture of wrongdoing. "This isn't just about breaking rules," Megan said firmly, her eyes scanning the room. "It's about harming real people, people who trusted us to protect them. If we don't address this now, we're no better than those who prioritize profit over humanity." The reaction was mixed. Some board members shifted, uncomfortably in their seats, avoiding eye contact. Others leaned forward, demanding explanations or questioning the validity of the evidence. One particularly aggressive executive, a middle-aged man named Mr. Peterson, spoke up sharply. "These are bold accusations," he snapped. "Do you have proof, or is this just speculation?" Before Megan could respond, Daniel stepped in. His tone was calm but authoritative. "We've gathered extensive documentation," he said, gesturing toward the folders spread across the table. "Everything here has been verified. These practices are unacceptable, and they must stop immediately." Peterson scowled but didn't argue further. Instead, he turned to the rest of the board, attempting to downplay the issue. "Even if these claims are true, shutting down these projects would set us back years. Our competitors won't wait for us to catch up. We can't afford to lose momentum." His argument struck a chord with some members who nodded in agreement. Megan clenched her fists under the table, fighting the urge to lash out. How could anyone justify putting profits ahead of human lives? She glanced at Daniel, who gave her an encouraging look. Together, they pressed on. "These projects aren't just unethical, they're unsustainable," Daniel continued. "If word gets out, and it will, we'll face lawsuits, public outrage, and irreparable damage to our reputation. Is that really worth the risk?" The room fell silent as the board considered his words. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually listen. But then another executive chimed in, suggesting a compromise. Scale back the most controversial experiments while continuing others under stricter supervision. Megan knew this wasn't enough. Partial measures wouldn't solve the problem, they'd only delay the inevitable. "We can't keep pretending this is okay," she said, her voice rising slightly. "Every day we let these experiments continue, we're gambling with people's lives. That's not leadership, it's negligence." Her passionate plea seemed to sway a few undecided members, but the division in the room remained clear. Some supported taking action, while others clung stubbornly to the status quo. By the end of the meeting, no consensus had been reached. Frustrated, but undeterred, Megan and Daniel left the boardroom knowing they needed a stronger strategy. Over the following days, they worked tirelessly to build support among employees and allies within the company. Megan reached out to colleagues who shared her concerns, sharing the evidence and urging them to speak up. Slowly but surely, a coalition formed, a group of individuals committed to exposing the truth and advocating for change. Meanwhile, Daniel used his influence to rally key stakeholders, emphasizing the importance of transparency and accountability. Despite their efforts, resistance remained strong. Powerful factions within the company fought back, spreading misinformation and attempting to discredit Megan and Daniel. Anonymous emails accused them of exaggerating the situation or acting out of personal gain. Rumors circulated that they were planning to sabotage Harper Technologies for their own benefit. The pressure mounted, testing their resolve. One evening, after another exhausting day of battling opposition, Megan found herself sitting alone in her apartment. Tears welled up in her eyes as she reflected on everything she had sacrificed. Her career, her peace of mind, even her sense of security, all of it was on the line. She wondered if it was worth it. Was she truly making a difference, or was she just tilting at windmills? Just as doubt began to creep in, her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Remember why we started this, you're not alone." His message reminded her of the bigger picture, the reason she had taken this stand in the first place. This wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about doing what was right. No matter how hard the fight became, she couldn't give up now. The turning point came unexpectedly. One of the whistleblowers Megan had contacted, an engineer named Alex, provided critical new evidence. Hidden recordings revealed top executives discussing the experiments openly, admitting to cutting corners and ignoring safety protocols. With this smoking gun in hand, Megan and Daniel called for an emergency press conference. Standing before reporters and cameras, Megan delivered a powerful speech. She explained the unethical practices taking place within Harper Technologies and presented the damning evidence. Her words resonated with the public, sparking outrage and calls for accountability. Social media exploded with hashtags like "Our Ethics Over Profit" and "Stop Human Exploitation," putting immense pressure on the company to act. Back at headquarters, the fallout was immediate. Board members scrambled to distance themselves from the scandal, pointing fingers and shifting blame. Amid the chaos, Daniel seized the opportunity to push for reform. He announced sweeping changes, including the termination of all unethical projects, the implementation of strict ethical guidelines, and the establishment of an independent oversight committee to ensure compliance. Though the road to recovery would be long, Harper Technologies began to rebuild its reputation. Employees rallied behind the new direction, proud to work for a company that prioritized integrity over greed. Megan's courage inspired many, earning her widespread respect both inside and outside the organization. As the dust settled, Megan realized she had found something far greater than a job or a title. She had discovered her purpose to stand up for what was right, even when it meant standing alone. And with Daniel by her side, she knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The press conference marked a turning point not just for Harper Technologies, but for Megan herself. Standing at the podium, she felt a mix of nerves and determination. The room buzzed with energy as reporters leaned forward, pens poised and cameras rolling. Megan took a deep breath, reminding herself why she was there: to expose the truth and protect those who couldn't speak for themselves. "Good morning," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "My name is Megan Carter, and I'm here today to share something important about Harper Technologies, a company many of us have admired for its innovation and potential. But behind the scenes, some practices have gone too far, crossing ethical boundaries that should never be ignored." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then, step by step, she walked the audience through the evidence: documents, recordings, and testimonies proving the existence of unethical experiments within the company. Her tone remained calm but firm, conveying both outrage and resolve. "These actions are unacceptable," Megan continued. "They betray the trust of participants, employees, and the public. They put profit above humanity. That stops now." As she spoke, Daniel stood quietly behind her, his presence lending strength. His expression was one of quiet pride, knowing how much courage it took for Megan to stand in front of the world and demand accountability. When she finished, the room erupted into questions. Reporters shouted over each other, eager for details. Though the attention was overwhelming, Megan handled every question with grace, refusing to back down. By the end of the press conference, the story had gone viral. News outlets around the globe picked up the report, amplifying Megan's message. Social media lit up with hashtags like "Darn Ethics Over Profit" and "Stand with Megan," drawing widespread support from ordinary people and industry experts alike. Public pressure mounted, forcing Harper Technologies to take immediate action. Within days, Daniel announced sweeping reforms. All controversial projects were shut down permanently, and an independent ethics board was established to oversee future initiatives. Employees received mandatory training on ethical practices, ensuring that everyone understood the importance of doing the right thing. These changes signaled a new chapter for the company, one rooted in transparency, integrity, and compassion. For Megan, the aftermath brought both challenges and rewards. While she faced criticism from some quarters, accusations that she was naive or reckless, she also earned immense respect from others. Colleagues praised her bravery and strangers reached out to thank her for standing up against injustice. Her name became synonymous with courage and moral leadership, inspiring countless individuals to fight for what they believed in. But perhaps the most significant change occurred within Megan herself. For so long she had doubted her place in the world, wondering if her efforts truly mattered. Now she knew without a doubt that they did. Saving Daniel's life had been the catalyst, but exposing the unethical practices at Harper Technologies gave her a deeper sense of purpose. She realized that her skills as a nurse weren't limited to hospitals. They could make a difference anywhere, especially in places where humanity risked being overshadowed by ambition. Her relationship with Daniel grew stronger as well. There, shared experience forged an unbreakable bond, built on mutual admiration and trust. Daniel often joked that Megan had taught him more about leadership than any business school ever could. In return, he supported her dreams, encouraging her to pursue opportunities that aligned with her values. Together, they became a powerful team, working side by side to shape the future of Harper Technologies. Months later, Megan found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. Sitting in her cozy apartment on a quiet evening, she flipped through photos from recent events. A charity gala honoring whistleblowers, a groundbreaking ceremony for a new healthcare initiative led by Harper Technologies, and even a casual dinner with Daniel where laughter came easily. Each memory reminded her of how far she'd come since that rainy night when she knelt beside an unconscious stranger on the sidewalk. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from Daniel. "Thinking about you. Wanna grab coffee tomorrow?" Megan smiled, typing back a quick reply. "Of course." As she set the phone down, she thought about the journey ahead. There would always be obstacles, battles to fight, and moments of doubt. But she no longer feared them. She had learned that standing up for what was right wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about staying true to yourself, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. The next morning, as Megan walked to meet Daniel at their favorite cafe, she noticed something different about the city around her. The streets felt alive with possibility, as if the air itself carried a renewed sense of hope. People passed by, chatting and smiling, unaware of the role Megan had played in sparking change. And that was okay. Not every hero needed recognition. Sometimes simply knowing you made a difference was enough. When she arrived, Daniel greeted her with his usual warmth. Over steaming cups of coffee, they talked about upcoming projects, personal goals, and the future of the company. For the first time in a long while, Megan felt at peace. She had found her place not just in Harper Technologies but in the larger fight for justice and humanity. As they parted ways later that day, Daniel stopped and turned to her. "You've changed everything, Megan. Don't ever forget that." She smiled softly, feeling a swell of gratitude. "We've changed it together." And with that, she walked away, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Whatever challenges arose, Megan knew she wouldn't face them alone. With courage, conviction, and the knowledge that good deeds still mattered, she stepped boldly into the future, a future shaped by her unwavering belief in doing what was right.